Hello, and welcome to the Sex Within Marriage podcast. My name is JD, and I blog over at uncoveringintimacy.com. And you know, most kids when growing up enter a picky stage at some point. When they're toddlers, some when they're young children, some even when they become teenagers. When our third or fourth kid entered this phase, everyone knew the response when they didn't want to eat something new that we'd made. It's good to try new things. Everybody knew this. We said it all the time. They didn't have to eat it, but they did have to at least try it. And a decent try, not a touch of the tongue followed by an exaggerated exclamation of disgust. In fact, we made it a rule in our house that you are not allowed to insult food someone else had prepared. You could say that you didn't like it, but you are not going to call it bad, disgusting, gross, or anything like that. And teaching children to at least give something new a fair shot, I think, has applications later on in life as well. I often talk to husbands and wives whose spouses simply will not try anything new in the bedroom either. One will simply bring up the idea and immediately it's shot down by the picky spouse, the one who's perfectly happy with the flavor of vanilla every night. And sometimes I wonder why this is. Is this only related to sex, or does it overlap in other areas of life? Do they generally prefer stability, routine, and comfort over new experiences, adventure, and excitement? That's something I'm curious about, and maybe we'll run a survey on that someday. But today I want to talk about why I think it's good to try new things, not only when it comes to food, but also in the bedroom or outside of the bedroom, depending on how much privacy you have. We're going to talk about the interplay between dopamine, controlled risk-taking, adventure, and trust in marriages as it pertains to sex, and more. And we're going to start with dopamine. Dopamine is often referred to as the feel-good hormone or the reward hormone. It's a neurotransmitter that plays an important role in our brain's reward system. It's responsible for feeling pleasure, motivation, satisfaction, and more. We tend to release dopamine when we've done something that we feel is worth celebrating. That could be as simple as checking something off your to-do list, or as exciting as surviving a jump out of an airplane with a parachute. We also get hits of dopamine when we experience something pleasurable, like a decadent dessert or erotic playtime. But it's not just released when we experience pleasure, it's also associated with anticipation and novelty. You know, when you're expecting something new. Like that feeling when you have like a gift wrapped in front of you and you know it's going to be good, but you don't know what it is yet. In relationships, this is part of the euphoric feelings that we experience at the beginning when a relationship is just starting and you're infatuated with your partner. Everything is new and exciting and it's all just one big adventure. As the relationship matures, the challenge becomes maintaining that sense of excitement and anticipation when the person is no longer new to you. And I just saw a video on TikTok the other day of a girl asking her boyfriend why he is never interested in sex anymore. And his answer, which was brutally honest, was simply that he was getting bored. After all, she's the same person every day, and they've been together for 3 years, and it's simply not as exciting for him anymore. Now, that speaks to another topic regarding the frequency of new relationships and how young people date these days. But this sentiment, while rarely expressed, often plagues marriages as well. In marriage, rather than relying on a new person, we need to seek out new experiences together. This doesn't always have to relate to sex. Trying a new board game, visiting a new restaurant, watching a new movie together, or going bungee jumping can all be shared experiences that will help increase dopamine. However, you'll find this experience heightened when it comes to sexual activities. There is an added element of the taboo in a lot of cases. On top of that, you're exposed, not only physically, but emotionally as well in a lot of cases. This increases the perceived risk and vulnerability and heightens the sense of gain if it ends up being a good experience. The key is that there's an element of uncertainty and the shared experience of meeting that uncertainty together and then making it certain. You know, like the jumping out of an airplane. You jump out of the airplane and you don't know what's going to happen, if you're going to make it to the ground safely. And then when you do, well, now it's certain that you did. But the adventure is the unknowing part in between. And this all leads to establishing more trust. Often I'm asked how couples can repair trust in a broken relationship. And the truth is that there's no safe way to manufacture trust quickly. It's not something you can build or rebuild overnight. You can choose to put your trust in them, but the trust itself takes time to build in most cases. The only way to do that is to have experiences where that trust is extended and then not broken. And then you begin to trust that they will keep your trust. And this is where that calculated risk-taking comes into play. I'm not suggesting you blindly trust people in order to build trust with them. Rather, you trust them further than before and then see if they can handle it. You also see if you can handle it. And if it goes well, now you trust them more than you did before. And when you take small risks with your spouse and see positive outcomes, you're not just having fun, you're also actively building trust. Each successful experience reinforces the belief that you can trust each other, even in uncertain situations. Over time, this creates a positive feedback loop. Increased trust leads to a willingness to take on larger and still safe risks, which in turn leads to more trust. The problem is that it's human nature for most people to seek out comfort and stability, especially in relationships. However, there is a paradox at play here. If we become too comfortable, we risk losing the excitement and passion that drew us together in the first place. Our relationships require a balance between comfort and safe risk-taking. You need stability and safety to build a stable relationship, but you also need adventure and uncertainty to maintain interest in each other and build trust. And if you never try anything that makes you uncomfortable, you are likely not doing anything risky enough to get that dopamine rush to excite you about your spouse again. After all, what probably drew you to them in the beginning was the simple fact that you didn't know what you were getting into. You didn't know who they were. You didn't know how they would react. You didn't know what it would be like to be with them. And if you want to regain that sense of excitement, you have to start stepping into things where you, again, don't know what's going to happen. And in the beginning of your relationship, sex was probably really exciting. For some, it was the first time they'd had sex, and then everything about it is new and exciting. Not to mention that arousal and orgasms release dopamine. It's a new person, new activities, and sex makes a huge, exciting cocktail of neurotransmitters. This is why often people are shocked when they enter a new relationship, be it due to divorce, death, or an affair, and find out that they suddenly have a sex drive when they didn't in their previous or current relationship. And it's not that they themselves were broken, it's that they had stopped nurturing excitement in the relationship. It's the newness and uncertainty that's exciting. We see the same behavior happen when people have a sexual awakening. This might be due to hormone changes, a new perspective on life, getting healthier, or changing some other belief. We see this often in our Becoming More Sexually Engaged course when people learn about, frankly, the theology of marriage and how sex plays into that. And suddenly they feel free to explore. All of a sudden, they're interested in trying new things sexually, and they'll be shocked to find out how much they actually like sex, because now that they're trying new things and getting that dopamine fix, which makes them want to try new things again. And this is why I create resources like our Sexploration list, so that you can find things that are a bit edgier to give you opportunities to trust each other. Because if you don't step out of your comfort zone with some regularity, then you're going to get bored with sex, bored with life, and bored with each other. If you've fallen into a roommate sort of dynamic, this is probably what's happened. So have uncomfortable sex. And I don't mean physically uncomfortable or painful. I mean be willing to take a step out and try something that maybe you're not sure of, something with some uncertainty. And a proper try too, not just a touch to your tongue followed by an exaggerated exclamation of disgust, like a toddler trying broccoli. In fact, I'd suggest trying things a couple of times. If you're female, then I'd say try at different times during your cycle, because that will change also how things feel, as well as what interests you and how you respond to them. And how uncomfortable you're willing to be, how much uncertainty you're willing to take on, will depend on you and your relationship. Some are willing to jump into anything and everything. Others need more time and baby steps to trust little by little. But if you're digging in your heels and are unwilling to extend any trust, well, then you have a serious problem. Now, in some cases, the spouse has broken trust so egregiously that it's hard to trust at all again, and you may need some time. In other cases, there may be a history of abuse where trust is difficult. If there's anything like that, seek therapy, because you won't be able to move forward without trusting again. But if you are the one holding back in the bedroom simply because you don't feel like it, or you like what you already do, then I'll flat out say that you are holding back the marriage. When you wonder why you're not happy, not excited to see your spouse, not interested in being married anymore, well, you're probably at least part of the reason. So, if that's you, how do you bring back excitement and adventure? The first thing is to start small. Begin with low-stakes risks. Try a new hobby together. Explore an unfamiliar part of your city. Cook a challenging recipe together. Try a new position in bed. There's a link in the show notes to a random position checker on christianfriendlysexpositions.com. Do something, anything to get out of your comfort zone. And then use a gradual progression. As you build confidence and trust, gradually increase the level of adventure. This could mean planning a spontaneous weekend getaway, or signing up for a challenging class together, or maybe check out our exploration list and find some new things to try out in bed. Also, take turns being the one to suggest and lead new experiences. This builds mutual trust and ensures both partners feel involved in the adventure planning process. And it doesn't have to be 50-50. When asked, most higher drive spouses I talk to say they would be thrilled if their husband or wife just initiated 10% of the time. And then reflect and appreciate. After each new experience, take time to discuss how it felt, what you learned about each other, how it impacted the relationship. This reflection reinforces positive aspects of risk-taking. Also, talking about it is another thing that feels vulnerable and risky, so that will build trust as well. You would not believe how many people are willing to have sex, but not talk about it with the person they're having sex with. If that's you, that's a good thing to fix, and maybe somewhere where you can step out into something that's uncomfortable. And lastly, embrace imperfection. Not every risk is going to pay off perfectly, and that's okay. The ability to laugh off minor failures together is also a form of intimacy building. There's nothing wrong with trying something new and going, yeah, that wasn't for me. But the same rules apply to the kids trying food in our house. But you're not allowed to tell the other person that what they like is disgusting or gross. Because that's the adult equivalent of throwing a bowl of broccoli across the room, giving them a disgusted look and asking them what is wrong with them because they want to try something with you. And one of the most exhilarating experiences in a relationship is when your partner says, trust me, and you find yourself able to do just that, even if you're feeling apprehensive. This metaphorical trust fall can lead to some of the most rewarding and dopamine-rich moments in your relationship. I can't tell you how many times I've read comments, emails, and survey responses from people who are quite surprised by the things they actually like in the bedroom. And I've seen more than a few comments like that in our BDSM survey, which, by the way, if you haven't taken it yet, you should go take it now. There's a link in the show notes, and we're still looking for many people to help fill it out. Especially women, we'd love to have more female voices in it. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. It's crucial to build up to these types of moments. If you find yourself consistently unable to trust your partner in these situations, then it's time for some honest introspection. So ask yourself, is this a relationship issue? Has your spouse given you reasons not to trust them? Or is this a personal issue? Do you struggle with trust in general, or perhaps due to past experiences? And identifying the root cause is the first step forward in addressing this, whether it means working on communication within your relationship or seeking personal growth through therapy or self-reflection or whatever's going on. Because building a marriage in which trust is being continually grown through acts of safe risk-taking and vulnerability leads to some other benefits as well. One is improved communication. Navigating new experiences together requires clear communication and teamwork. It's very easy to wallow in poor communication with a stagnant life. But once you start pushing the boundaries, then you need to increase communication as well. And that is a skill that helps in your entire relationship. As well, increased resilience. Overcoming challenges as a couple builds confidence in your ability to face life's obstacles together. Jumping out of a plane together makes other things seem much simpler. Likewise, having an intense and varied sex life makes everything in life seem easier to deal with as well. As well, continued personal growth for each of you. Trying new things prevents stagnation and encourages ongoing personal development as well. You not only grow as a couple, but as a person as you challenge your own internal boundaries and test whether they are healthy or not. And of course, you build shared memories. These unique experiences become cherished memories that strengthen your bond. You'll likely not remember a lazy Sunday afternoon where nothing happened except sitting on the porch doing a crossword puzzle. But you'll never forget the big adventurous trip you took together. and likely not the first time you tried a particular new thing in bed either. And of course, sustained passion. Regular doses of excitement and novelty can help maintain sexual and emotional passion in long-term relationships, which many people struggle with. I don't hear of many, if any, couples that have a varied and erotic sex life who are also bored with each other. But I know of plenty of couples who feel like they have nothing in common and there's nothing going on between the sheets either, except for some maybe very efficient sex from time to time. And lastly, just remember that the goal isn't to live in a constant state of anxiety or to take unnecessary risks or to push through boundaries that are healthy. There are things that should not be explored. And it is good and healthy to feel an aversion to those things. But this is about creating a dynamic where calculated risk-taking within healthy boundaries feels more exciting than scary. It's about building a strong foundation of trust so that you can take leaps of faith together, knowing that you'll land safely in each other's arms. So if you are ready to inject some adventure into your relationship, then start small, build trust, and watch those dopamine-fueled moments of excitement become the highlights of your journey together. Your next big adventure as a couple is up to you both, and all you need to do is take that first step out of your comfort zone. Because it's good to try new things.